Hey, what's up, guys? Hope everyone's enjoying Counter-Strike today. We got a little bit of a rake-free day with the Gen G Orglis match being canceled because Orglis withdrew from the tournament. And I have to apologize for my video yesterday. I had an error in my spreadsheet and I really threw off the results I was getting. I forgot to subtract the deaths points lost in the third set for games, and that ended up making game stacks look a lot better than they actually are. So I figured I'd kind of redo the video from yesterday and explain kind of my theory of Counter Strike Go. Well, let's see how this goes. So I have today's tournament brought up. I pasted it into my spreadsheet here, and I kind of broke down what strategies everyone is using. So about 7% 3-3 stacks, 29% 3-2, 8% 3-1. So about 40% of the field stacked up one game with three people, including me, because I didn't figure out this error until later today. And I can just tease the fact that I think this is probably not the best strategy on DraftKings now with the new scoring. So apologies if you saw my video and you took my advice. It wasn't that good. I think it's much better to be in this 2 range, and I'll explain why. And then as far as game stacks, it looks like about half the people had 3 people from the same game. I think it's much better to fall on the under of that now that I've looked at the data correctly, I should say. Um, so let me explain kind of what I found in my data. And the number of points that are scored in a game of Counter Strike doesn't vary that much. I didn't factor in the bonus points for like clutches and stuff, but so I figured out on the average game there's 485 points scored. The standard deviation of total points is only 35, so it almost always falls in a pretty narrow range of points scored. It varies a little bit based on overtime. That would be the main factor. But the DraftKings Browns not played thing kind of makes the total points scored pretty constant. On FanDuel, however, they don't have nearly as many bonus points awarded for unplayed games, so the correlation is much stronger on FanDuel. So I'm stacking a lot more on FanDuel. All right. The correlation between opposing teams is very negative. So if one team scores more points, the other team scores less points. For the most part, overtime is one exception. And what that means is if you have a small slate, it's optimal to stack up 2 teams that aren't in the same game. And if you get those winners right and they win by a decent margin, then you should be in business. That's my short slate strategy, and I'm hoping not enough people realize that you don't want to play players from the opposite teams. All right, the correlation between teammates is positive, but not to the same extent as some other esports like League of Legends. In Counter Strike, so in a winning round, teams average about 4.9 kills, and a losing round about 1.8. So just the more winning rounds, the more kills there are to go around, the less deaths, and that causes a correlation. And it causes the same correlation with the opposing players of about the same negative. So about 25% of the variation in the opposing team can be explained by the first team doing well. Therefore, it's better not to have players on opposing sides of the same game, um, barring other factors. All right, and then the standard deviation for each team is higher than the total points per game. So a lot of that variation happening for a team is simply taking points away from the other team. So The problem is if there are a limited number of points to go around, then it prohibits a lot of guys from the same team putting up really high scores, barring overtime, which is a little bit unlikely. And we saw that yesterday in kind of my analysis, but all right, let me pull up lineup study because that is a really nice tool to see just kind of what's been winning. Slate's still going on as I'm talking about this today, so we'll have one more data sample. All right, so we have 3 6-game slates here. So a lot of times I'm doing my analysis kind of backwards, where I'm trying to figure out the optimal strategy and then look through the data to see if that bears out. And that's why I was having such trouble explaining it yesterday. But this is it's all fun, kind of learning everything. So in this, there was 1-2 stack in the winning lineup. This tournament, 2-2 stacks. And this particular slate had some really big routes, so even in like 16-2, 16-2, only 2 players from the best teams made it to the optimal. And this one, only a 2 stack, 2-1, 1-1, 1. And based on what I've been learning about the way that the fantasy points vary between players, I think this is going to be the example more than the rule. And I'm going to recommend that you limit total players per game to 2. And with 6 games, it might even make sense to kind of set a rule that's like if you have a player from one team, you don't want a player from the other team because there is a negative correlation there. But you don't necessarily have to set that rule. So what I would do here, let's go to change all game settings, set players from game max to limiting all opposing players 0. And we have a big slate tomorrow to kind of practice this and see how it goes. I actually do think it can be smart to have 2 players from the same game that are in the same team because there is a positive correlation there. But there are a limited number of points that to distribute, so that limits the upside to some extent of having more than 2 players. Alright, so let me go back to lineup study. However, on the really short slates, you want to stack. So this is kind of interesting because that in a short slate, the dominant thing is that there is a huge negative correlation between opposing teams. That is the strongest correlation in Counter-Strike. So I got 3 random 3-game slates here. Let's see what kind of one of these. 2-2, 3-2, 3-2. So 3 players. So 1 player from one game, 2 from another, 3 from another. So I think in these 3-game slates, definitely making a stack makes a lot of sense. And then let me pull up some 2-game slates here. Got some early slates at 2 gamers. Alright, so we got 3 2-game slates here. This is clutch, so I'm not going to count that. Oh wait, no, this is called the clutch. Oops. 3-2. 2-2. 2-2. So I'm just going to check what percentage of teams were stacked appropriately. It looks like people have figured out, like in these small slates, you want to stack a lot. Although it is hard to avoid doing that, so I'm not sure exactly if people are using the optimal strategy or not. In these 3-game slates, only about 60% are stacking. So unless you're making a 2-2-2 stack, you should have a 3 stack. So I think these 3 stacks are going underowned in these 3 game slates. All right, guys. So I hope this kind of gave you some general strategy to utilize in your Counter Strike tournaments, and look forward to talking some more about it. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see in future game plan videos. All right, thanks, guys, and good luck.